Welcome to the Altered Call podcast. For the next couple of weeks, I'll be sharing a series of interviews that I participated in for the New Path, New You podcast. Ron is a good friend of mine, and I hope that you enjoy our discussion. During this short break in new material, start defining unique minimum standards for your discipleship path, build an authentic relationship with God, and start listening for His voice. We will have a lot to talk about when I get back. Enjoy.
Have you felt there's a greater call in your life, but you're just not knowing what to do or how to step into it? Well, today is the final episode of a 3-part series around the warrior's path. This is more than just a conversation. It's a battle cry. Are you ready to embrace your role? Let's take the final step together. Welcome to the New Path, New You. My name is Ron Cool. Thank you so much for joining me. And if you've been listening, we're on the 3rd episode talking about the warrior path. And if you missed why we started it, some background about it, and what you would get from it, definitely go back and listen to the last 2 weeks. And I once again am joined with my friend Alex. Alex, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
All right. So today we're going to talk just briefly about what guys can expect from this, how they can get involved, and then we're going to talk about something super exciting that you're doing.
Launching today, I think.
I think you're right. It is launching today. And so if you love what you're hearing from Alex, I am going to ask you to go support him and his show. And it is called
Altered Call.
The link is in the show notes. So you can just go head over there. And we would love for you to just take a listen, especially if you've enjoyed hearing how Alex thinks and what he's sharing. And if it's pulling on your heart, definitely subscribe to his show because he's going to add a ton of value into your life, because I know how much he's added to mine and all the other guys that he's involved with. So one, thank you for that, Alex. I'm very excited for your show and how you're leaning into that.
I appreciate it.
All right. So let's before we get into the show, let's talk about the warrior's path. So we've talked about how it started, why it started, some life change around it, but I'm sure guys are wanting to know like how to get involved. So the link's been in the show notes. There's a couple different ways to do it. One is going to be online. That's launching in a little bit. One's going to be in these small groups that are local. And then there's a vision to create more of these everywhere. So to help people lean into a training for them to be able to facilitate their own groups.
Yeah, so the plan is this is a joint project that you and I have been working on for a while. And
Yes.
The plan is to get men's ministry in a place where men actually want to participate. And I know you've been talking to a lot of pastors all across the country, trying to figure out what they need and what they want. And somehow, I'm going to blame God, you and I backed into a process that actually seems to get men to respond and to want to participate. And not just, here's an offering that we have, we hope you show up. But no, here's something where you can actually show up and expect to have your life changed, to have your perspective changed, and to have an impact on your community going forward. So
yeah,
the goal is pretty big. The plan is to change the way that people approach men's ministry such that Christian men want to be in church. I think that's a failure that's been around for entirely too long.
No, 100%. I was talking to a guy, and I don't think I even shared this with you. He's a pastor in Indiana, and I was talking to him, and he's sharing the same struggle. Guys are not, they have a men's event, but guys aren't really showing up. He goes, do you provide food at this group? I said, no. And it's growing. Now, leading the men's ministry at a church, that was one of the ways we got guys to engage in the ministry was food. Just come, there's food. Just show up.
Put on a football game. Food
Right.
football game,
or we've put on a football game, right?
You'll double your numbers.
Yeah, we've actually gone head to head with, our group's on Monday night, so we go head to head with the NFL every single week, which is great. But we've gone head to head on, we're in Colorado, Broncos Monday night games, and guys chose to come to our group over a Broncos game. And the Broncos are actually in some playoff contention. So that's kind of a big deal for Colorado.
I'm willing to admit that that doesn't mean anything to me, but
Well, you are not,
I do understand that is appealing to others.
right. Well, but we
So-
have like there's guys in the group that literally called out that they were there not wanting to miss the game, but they didn't want to miss this more,
Yeah.
and I think that's very special.
And I think that Christianity can be compelling.
Yeah.
It sounds weird that you have to defend it in that way, but I think a lot of guys say, okay, yeah, so great, I believe in God, maybe I'll go to heaven when I die.
Right.
But no, it should be compelling in the day to day. Like it should be something that you want to participate in. Like these groups, unless I'm out of town, are not something that I'm willing to miss at any point.
Right.
This is one of the highest priorities on my calendar because I know that I'm going to get fed and supported in a way that is actually meaningful and not just a bunch of fluff.
Yeah. We actually knew we actually had a bigger problem when guys were telling us they enjoyed our group more than Sunday.
Yes, and that's something that we've been trying to look into on the back end because the churches that implement this are going to need to know that they're going to have to give guys a different level of participation.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to activate the men in your church, you're going to have to give them something to do.
Right.
And I think pastors are going to need to be warned of that up front, which is going to be fun. It's going to be a fun conversation to have once we start rolling this out in a formal way to other churches to say, okay, but like, do you actually want the guys in your church woken up? Because then it's going to be really exciting, but it's going to create a whole new series of headaches that you're not ready for.
100%. And I'm not going to go into the vision that I shared with you and the other guys the other day, but it's a large vision.
Yeah.
And what's interesting, I know you've talked to your wife, I've talked to my wife, like the size of it, like there's zero fear or concern that it could happen.
Yeah, no, I'm much less concerned with failure than I am with success in that sense. Like I think the guys are responding to this. I don't see a reason why they wouldn't continue to.
Right.
And it's very exciting.
It is. And what's cool about it is you've done an amazing job of kind of structuring everything in a way that's just digestible for guys, but you're also putting together a training on how to do this so that if someone's interested or a church is interested, we have a couple that are interested in beta testing, but if a guy is starting to go to church and say, hey, we need a men's ministry. I mean, geez, man, this last summer, Red Rocks, their fifth largest church in the United States, had their very first men's conference, and they've been around for 20 years. That's a problem. Like, kudos to them. They did it. It was phenomenal. But first one?
It's a lot easier, just functionally, it is a lot easier to ignore men.
Right.
But I think if that's your approach, I mean, you're alienating half the population. So if you want people to show up to your church, what are you doing?
The data says if you get the guy, you get 92% of their family.
I mean, the numbers are insane. If you can get the guys involved in church, if you can get them passionate about church, everything changes. And I think at a societal level, that's some of what we're struggling with right now is that guys just don't feel like, again, back to the permission where they don't have permission to be successful, to live a life that is exciting and worth living.
Right.
And there's a lot of obstacles, and we focus on getting around those obstacles. But yeah, I think a lot of guys just like from a Christian perspective, just say, no, God actually made me on purpose. Like he didn't just back into this relationship and say, oh, I'm stuck with you. No, like he crafted you. He custom built you to live your life. So act like it.
I'm excited. So if you want some information, it's down in the show notes, but you can go to newpathnewU.com and just click the button that says Warrior Path. And it'll tell you all about it and how to get involved or how you can start your own if you're interested. But they can get on a wait list because there's a lot of guys that are like, I want that. So we've created a wait list for people to get in, and then we're going to start organizing them. So then they have some accountability groups attached to that as well.
Yeah. Just other guys that they can disciple with.
And then if you're interested in leading this or getting certified to lead this, we are putting together a program for that as well, which you can sign up for a wait list for that too. So cannot wait for that. But let's talk about what's next for you, Alex. So you have Altered Call dropping actually today. It's been a fun journey hearing your story, hearing how you want to affect men. And I think this is a great avenue for you to be able to get out there. And then just how your voice has changed as you've been doing them. You've gotten really, really good at them.
I appreciate that. It's interesting because I was thinking back, and I think that you, given your background, I'm going to presume here for a second, but I think that when people meet you and figure out what it is that you do with launching podcasts and things like that, I think everybody kind of has the thought, oh, well, should I launch a podcast? And I had that thought when you and I first met, and I went, no, I don't need that. And then, 6 or 7 months later, you start kind of talking me into the process. And I really appreciated that because you kind of affirmed that I had something to say.
Yeah.
And not just because I made the assumption, like going back to the calling that I had to build men, I had the assumption that, my dad died when I was young. I didn't have a lot of male mentors or a lot of guys speaking into my life, that I would be basically the worst possible person to speak to men because just lack of experience. But when I started doing it, when we started putting these groups together, and I just said, here's what I've been doing in my own life in an attempt to honor God, guys are going, oh, I never thought about that.
Right.
And I remember the first couple times somebody would be like, well, I just don't know how to do this. And then I would explain the process, and they go, oh yeah, that is really pretty easy. And I go, yeah, I've just been doing this for years now, and I've been getting great results, and I am able to keep my priorities straight. And the more that I realized the guys just don't think about these things, and that they don't give themselves permission, again, to matter.
Right.
Like to look at my life and go, it actually matters to God what I do.
Right.
Now, maybe I have less resources than the guy next to me. That doesn't matter.
Right.
God still wants something from me. He still wants me to manage the things that I've been given.
Yeah.
Great or small. And it was just really affirming through this process to hear more and more guys say, look, I really needed this. I really needed to be able to look at my life and go, God actually feels like this matters.
Right.
And that's one of my big passions is just that as Christians, we take life seriously, and we actually pursue the things that we claim to believe. So
no, it's good.
It's been really fun putting all of the information into podcast form, and we get into really, really deep detail on a lot of it. So I'm excited. I think that I can break it down in such a way that it will be meaningful and useful to people, and not just, okay, that was fun information, let's move on with our lives. Like the goal is to actually get guys to do it. And I know one of the first things we're going to do once we get to the Warriors Path and the website is just have an actual workbook.
Yeah.
Like we're actually just going to walk you through the whole thing.
Right.
Like figure out how to manage your life from a godly perspective, and then figure out how to listen to God's voice and pursue that in a way that it is the guiding factor in your life, and not just responding to a series of stimulus that happen external to you.
Right.
So,
And what's cool, since I've had a sneak peek in your show, the amount of tangible resources you're helping guys with through the show and actionable steps you give them through the show, like they should experience life change just by listening to your show.
I would hope so. I'm going to defer to you on that because
I think they're great, just me personally, and I have no bias on it. I think it's going to be amazing. I think it's going to be exactly what guys are looking for if they actually want to create a sustainable change in their life.
Yeah. And if the guys that we've had in groups so far are any indication, I think that the vast majority of Christian men will respond positively to this and just say, okay, even if it's just a thought exercise,
Right.
even if it just spurs someone to think about their life a little bit differently and not maybe accept the entire structure,
Right.
that would feel good to me to say, look, actually take your life seriously and get after it.
Right. Right. No,
And not in like a hustle culture type of way, in just good stewardship. Just take care of what's in front of you and move from there.
no, I think that's important. And I think that tone and that heart is felt in all of your episodes. So I think it's edgy. It gets to the point. You don't hold punches. And I think it's perfectly timed for what guys are going through right now.
I appreciate that.
All right. So what's one thing that you're hoping 2025 will bring for Altered Call?
It has been just so much of a journey to get here. I really want to give men the tools that they need to build a life. So there's two aspects of it. There's the actual functional stewardship piece, and then there's the talking to God piece. And I think that the combination of the two is particularly powerful. But for me, just being told once upon a time that I could hear God's voice and respond to it,
Right.
has been utterly life-changing for me. Because now, instead of me saying, well, here's my best plan, here's what I'm going to do, I get to say, God, what are you doing? And how do I respond to it?
Right.
Like, what are you putting in front of me? And I think 2025 is going to be a big year. I tend to be extremely cyclical in nature, long periods of rest, long periods of productivity. And this is the first time that I feel like I'm going to go into a productive season in a way that God is saying, I'm behind this idea and I'm going to push and support you. Like, the way that I got here was by a series of doors opening up that I could have never done on my own. Like, even just meeting you and having you push me into the podcast realm, I would have never, even when I knew you, I didn't even consider putting together a podcast.
Right.
So this is just an avenue that I never thought that I would go down. It was never the plan. I really don't have any interest in fame. I actually think that anonymity is way undervalued in our culture. So that part is horrifying. But I do think that every ounce of feedback that I've gotten to this point is that I have something valuable to say and that God wants me to say it. So the goal is to stay true to that, and I'm going to let him decide what happens as we go. But it's been a really interesting journey so far, and it seems like things are ramping up pretty aggressively. The content's been easier to put together. Things are trying to take form as relates, the online stuff. It's all moving very, very quickly right now. And I don't know, maybe it sounds presumptuous to say, but I think God is behind this stuff. I don't see how we could have gotten to where we are without his blessing in the manner. So
I agree. And I get less hate texts from you as you're going in this journey, which is great.
Well, people don't realize, I mean, we're launching the podcast today, and I'm launching, I don't know, 8 or 9 like mini episodes.
Right.
I had no idea how unbearably hard it is to record a podcast.
Right.
It is an insane process.
Yeah.
And so, when we started out, I was not particularly pleased with the the things you were putting me through to get this material in the shape that it needed to be. And even the journey from recording those initial podcasts, which was a couple weeks ago, to now having recorded a couple full episodes, it's a big difference. There's a big difference in quality. There's a big difference in how I'm approaching the content and the recording process and all of that. It's been a really fun journey of learning and figuring out my voice, because it's not something you generally think about. Not something I thought about. Is how do I want to sound in this moment? How do I bring these ideas to people that don't get to interact with me afterwards? Like when I present this in person, you get to ask me questions afterwards.
Right.
When I present this in a podcast, I just have to get all the information out there in a way that it can be understood clearly. So
Right. Right.
it's
It's
been fun.
and getting used to just talking to really nobody.
Yeah, that's weird too. I also had the benefit of having a coach in my life that I was talking to, and I'm like, I just don't. None of this sounds like the way that I want it to sound. And she told me that, like, when have you felt like most authentically yourself? And I thought back to high school, which was weird for me, but I thought back to high school, and I'm like, I really was like, there was nothing holding me back before I became a Christian, and that was undeniably a bad thing.
Right.
But I was able to just be unfiltered, purely authentic version of myself.
Sure.
And that was all egocentric nonsense. But what I thought about was, is there like a Christian version of egocentric nonsense?
Right.
And I think it's something akin to humility paired with boldness. Like, I feel like God is telling me to do this, and I'm going to step into it in that way.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong and I'm an idiot, and that's fine. I will own that on the backside if that's the case.
Sure.
But I feel like I'm willing to say, this is something that I've been told to get out there. I'm not going to pretend to know why, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
So I think there's a degree of boldness that comes with that was unexpected, but fun, because I'm not used to speaking boldly in religious terms.
Right.
That was new for me, and it feels good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting journey and parallel. Like I was on that journey as well. I was able to talk about entrepreneurial stuff all the time, but then switching to spiritual, all of a sudden you have to overcome with, hey, you're not qualified to talk about that.
Yeah.
Right. But if God called you, he will equip you. It doesn't matter. As long as what you're doing, what God called you to do, which I feel you are. So thank you for that. But what is one thing that you feel guys will get from Altered Call in the first 25 episodes?
The first 25 episodes. Oof. We're going to unpack a lot. The part that I think will be game changing for people is the talking to God and listening. You are one of the only other people that I've met that I feel like really lives in a way that is in response to God. It's insanely impressive, and I'm trying to live that way as well. But if you can't hear God, and there's a lot of reasons why you might not be able to, but if you can't hear God, then how are you going to respond to him?
Right.
And so about half of the episodes are going to be dedicated to listening to God's voice and then responding to it in a meaningful way. So we've got this baseline of stewardship that says, here's how we protect the things that are important. Here's how we make sure that we are glorifying God in the execution of our life. And then that provides the foundation for, now, what if God tells us to move? Like, what if he says, okay, you're doing great, everything's wonderful, go start a podcast.
Right.
And we're like, oh, no, I wasn't planning on that. No, thank you. Like, what do you do with that information? How do you process it? How do you make sure it's God's voice and not something else or something crazy? And that's a skill. That's a skill that you can train up, is listening to God and responding to his voice. And the more confident that you become in what is God's voice and what's not, the more boldly that you will step into the world and say, okay, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know why it's going to happen, but I feel like I need to be in this spot doing this thing.
Right.
And then you just do it. And sometimes nothing happens. And sometimes doors open up and you're like, what the heck is this? Like, where did I end up?
Right.
Why am I here?
Right.
And until you are living in that world, which I feel you are,
yeah,
it's just so insane to think about. Like, God knows everything that's going to happen to you. And he knows how to prepare you for the things that are going to happen.
Yes.
Like, I think it was 7 or 8 years ago that I was given my calling of build men.
Mm-hmm.
Very specific. It's the only time that I feel like God has spoken a particular word to me.
Yes.
And I spent 4 years having no idea what to do with that.
Right.
Like no concept of what to do with it, but I knew I had heard it.
Right.
And now all of a sudden it makes a lot of sense.
Right.
And in the meantime, because I didn't know what to do, like I knew that I had been called to do something, but I didn't know what that thing was.
Right.
And so my goal was to create as much capacity in my life as possible because I knew something was on the horizon.
Yep.
I just didn't know when and I didn't know what. So I created as much capacity in my life so that when God made clear what those words meant, I would be ready to move.
Yeah.
And what's amazing is that is now a big part of the curriculum.
Yeah.
Like how do you build that foundation? Because that's what I was doing for those years. I was building that foundation that I could launch from, not realizing that now I'm going to be teaching guys to build that foundation,
right,
and hear God's voice so that they can launch off. So it's just such an interesting world to live in, of following God's promptings and having faith, even over the course of years when you don't know what to do with it,
right,
that what he told you is true. And once you're responding to it in that way, the world just gets so fun and so weird.
right.
And I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
So if we can get guys to that spot, I think that things are going to get awesome. Like just the world's going to be such a fun place if Christian men are doing all kinds of weird stuff and it's working out.
Exactly.
So that's
exactly
that's the part that I think is going to be super fun. Like I would love for somebody to send me an email and go, I heard God's voice. Here's what he said. I thought he was crazy. Here's what happened.
Right.
Like I am so excited for that to be a thing someday. And we're going to get into that super quick. I've recorded, the first 3 full episodes, and we're already talking about talking to God.
Yes.
And in the very near future, I'm gonna record the episode that is listening to God, because I think talking is a prerequisite to the listening. But yeah, we're gonna get there as fast as we humanly can, and then there's gonna be a framework for how to process through once you hear something. Yeah. Which I think will be life changing to a lot of guys. So that's I'm super excited.
I tell everybody that I talk to, if your show helps one person, is it worth it?
Well, and we talked about, I think in the first episode, that my dad died when I was particularly young.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always been my thing. Like, I feel like nobody stepped up and told me how to do life at that point. And I feel like they should have, honestly.
Yeah.
Particularly some sort of Christian man.
Right.
But my conviction ever since then has been, well, if nobody did it for me, I'm going to do it for every single person that I think I can help.
Yeah.
Anybody that I think I can help, I'm going to step up and say, you know what? You get this. Like, you get this gift, because I know how important it is.
Right.
So yeah, like if it changes the life of one person, I'm totally fine with that. I'm putting in a lot of work. I'd prefer it be like 2 or 3. Right. But if it's just the one guy, I hope he has a great time. Like,
and think about how many people he'll affect.
Yeah.
That one guy could be thousands of people under that one guy, right? So thank you so much for hopping on today. I know you're super busy because I gave you a laundry list of stuff to do today. So thank you for making time to do this. So I'm going to let you go. Guys, if you are interested, which please go check out Altered Call. In the show notes is links, so it's going to be super easy. Check it out, listen to it, subscribe, follow, give them a 5-star review because it's amazing content. So thank you so much, Alex. I appreciate you taking a moment. Go enjoy launch day and go promote it. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy all the kudos you'll get, because you're going to change a lot of lives. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Again, head over to any of the podcast platforms, search for Altered Call, or just hit the link below. And I can't wait to hear how it's affected you on your new path for a new year. Talk to you next week.